Hello, it's time for Combat Patrol Carnage. We're on to our final issue for Delivery 7, and we're ending on a biggie as we get the Wraithlord in issue 26. So this issue is pretty chock-a-block with the build and paint guide for the model, as it's quite a complex model for us to do. So the video might be longer than normal, or I might break it down into two separate videos. I'll see how I go, as there isn't a lot of lore. And we of course have a naming article, then we have a scenario to play where we get to try out our Wraithlord. So that's pretty much it for the magazine content. But yeah, we got build guide, paint guide, 2 bits of lore looking at spirit stones and Beyond the Veil. We name our Wraithlord and then we try him out against endless waves of Tyranids. So this is the Wraithlord frame. So we got legs, body, head, weapon options, extra bits as well, so loads of tiny little details we can add to make this model really unique, especially if you're going to run 3 of them. And we also get a 70mm sculpted base with some ruined Eldari masonry on. So before we hit the table then, don't forget to do all the usual. Like this video if you've been enjoying the Combat Patrol content. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and numbers are continuing to grow. And we're hoping to aim for 1,000 by the end of the year, so might be a bit of a push to ask 250 people, but would be nice. See how we go. And of course, drop me a comment down below. How have you gone with your Wraithlord's equipment? For this Combat Patrol, I'm going to be obviously copying the magazine content, but I think my own personal one, I'm going to be adding quite a few extra bits to it. I have seen the full instructions for the model, and I must admit I do like the one that has the 2 big guns on its arms, making it look kind of like Ironhide from Transformers. Sorry, Prime, I just wanted to show him my cannons. So yeah, pretty cool. Definitely going to have a variety of poses when it comes to my free. Finally then, Combat Patrol Carnage is proudly sponsored by warbay.shop, your one-stop supply for all your hobby needs. They stock everything you need, new and used models from various different armies and game systems, to all your hobby supplies and your gaming equipment as well. They also stock Combat Patrol magazine and have recently got some stock of the birthday exclusive models. So if you missed out on your local store birthday and getting your Genie Stealer or Knight Azeroth models, you can check out warbay.shop. There's a link in the video description. So go and check them out, and who knows, you might find the next hobby project at a bit of a discount. Right, let's head to the table. We'll build and paint our Wraithlord. So here we are, issue 26, and we're ready to kick things off with our build and paint guides. So you can get a close look at that Eldari detailed base. So we've got some bits of rubble, fallen piece of Eldari structure, and some Craft World runes written into the base as well. So nice detail. And underneath we got product number and 2006. Wow. Some time ago. And yet this frame is indeed from 2006. So almost a wealthy 20 years old. But it still stands up as an impressive kit nonetheless. I really do like this kit. And yeah, it shows its age, being an older kit without numbers for parts. But it is a classic and doesn't need much of an update. So you got the Ghost Glaive there. You got Flamers, which are options to replace the Shuriken catapults here. We got the big guns that it can take, so Bright Lance, Shuriken Cannon, Scatter Laser, D Cannon, and the Star Cannon. I think that's the Eldari missile launcher. I'm not too sure on Eldari weapons. But yeah, loads of components there. We've got the extra details, so some tassels, loincloth, hip plates, a crotch plate as well there. And we've got the main body here over on this sprue. They could have easily split it up into 2 parts, build the body in one issue and then add the weapons and stuff. I'm glad they did it all in one issue. So we got the legs, arms, so you got 2 different types of arm for each arm, so either bent or straight. We got the hip connector there, the 3 parts make up the head, the 3 parts make up the body with the arm section there. The veins on the back. We've got loads of different arm options, so closed fists, open palms, a gun option, so you can have him holding the gun if you so choose. And yeah, loads of little extra veins and stuff. So if you don't use your shuriken catapults, you can put these on the arms. Got 1 bit there for the head. And yeah, even a little bit more Eldari masonry to add to your base. So really interesting model. Can't wait for us to start building that. Speaking of, let's start looking. We'll look through the build guide and the paint guide, and then we'll get into actually building our model. So here we go. Let's take a look. So for the full contents of the magazine, we have our build and paint guides, of course, for our Wraithlord. We read all about spirit stones, and we go beyond the veil as we learn more about the warp. We have our collect article for the Wraithlord, including his datasheet. And we have the latest scenario Vanguard action as the Wraithlord faces endless amounts of Tyranids. So we got our build guide first off. So follow this guide. You can add a towering centerpiece model to your Eldari army in the form of a Wraithlord. So check your components against the pictures, cut them out, clean them up, apply your glue and push them into piece together, making sure you hold it firmly to get a secure fit. It does mention here the Wraithlord kit does not have numbered parts, so carefully select each part by checking it against the guide. So we got the central piece here, which are the arm joints. We got the back torso, the front torso, the head plate, the power pack sort of thing, the veins that go on the back. We got the legs and the hip there. So you can use the joints on the hips to position the legs however you like. Make sure the model stands up when it's done. So yeah, you actually have a choice of bent toe or flat foot. So you can get a nice sort of striding pose if you so choose. The tabard and armor plate are both optional. If you wish to use both, make sure you attach the tabard first. Both components simply fit in place. So you'll need to hold each piece firmly to the model until the glue has set enough to attach it. Then again, you've got the arms. You can do much the same as with the legs. You can pose the arms if you want. You can choose whether to add the crest or not. It's nice. It makes it a more centerpiece sort of model. So the bright lance. So this is a laser weapon. So we have that. We got little attachments to go on top of the ball joints on our backpack. The Wraithlords often have shuriken catapults mounted on their arms, so we get 2 of those. The bright lance will be mounted on either ball joint on either shoulder, so choose left or right, whichever you prefer. Personally, I'm probably going to go left, just so it doesn't interfere with the ghost glaive. Speaking of, the ghost glaive is a huge sword wielded by the Wraithlords. And then we got extra details, so we got all these little tassel pieces, which you can stick wherever you want, really. You got the little base detail, which they do tell you to use. And then we have our finished Wraithlord. Gather the dead for war. Let them join our ranks, lest we are forced to join theirs. And then we can move into the paint guide. So we got to layer 3 coats of Mephiston Red all over our model. Picking out the black details with Abaddon Black. As we got to paint the head housing, might be a good idea to leave the head separate until you've painted it, then glue it down. Picking out all the weapons, so shuriken catapults, getting them with Abaddon Black, as well as the underside workings of the cannon there, and finally getting the grip, power supply and the rune on the sword, and the back veins and this little runic detail on the back is our final piece of Abaddon Black. Now we're moving on to Corax White for the head, so get 3 coats over the head. Screaming Pink is used for the tabard, and finally Lead Belcher and Retributor armor. So Lead Belcher is used for the sword, making sure you get both sides and the back. And for Retributor armor, we're picking out the little rune on the back, so just be careful picking out the raised detail. You'll need a couple of layers over the black, so just take your time. Then finally we got shades, so we're shading the small bits at the top of the helmet with non-oil. The Ghost Glaive, Blade and the Tabard are shaded with Carabo Crimson, and that's our finished model for the moment. But first, we need to build it, so I'll bring in my tools and our model and we'll get started. So to get started, we'll need to assemble our body. So we'll cut out the 3 components we need. So we need this section here, which is the ball joints for the arms. And we need the 2 halves of the torso, so we'll cut those out. So there we go, we got the 3 parts of our body. So you want to run some glue into here and along our edges. So slot this piece in like so. Then we can close the 2 halves together. Holding it nice and firm till we get a solid fit. So while that's drying, we'll clip out our next component. So we want our backpack, our head plate, and we want the 2 veins. I'll bring in our body, checking it's dry, which, yeah, it looks like it is. Got some final bits of tidying up to do. And we can start attaching our components. So we'll apply glue to this part here. And then we can attach our plate for the head to go on. So it sits like that. And on the back, we'll put a bit of glue on each of these raised nubs and around the edge so that we can secure into place the back mounting for the guns. And finally, we want glue into these little sockets here, and we can glue in our veins. There we go. Leave all that to dry while we move on to our next section, which is to build our legs. So I want our base for this. So as I have it in that sort of orientation. So we want the hip. We want each of the legs. And we want to choose our feet, and it's, yeah, it looks like it's using both the flat feet, so I'll take those. Right, we'll get those cleaned up and we can begin our construction. So first we'll bring in our feet, I think. Put a little bit of glue into the well on the back. I'll make sure the toes are on the inside like so. Then we'll line up our feet. And we got our hips, which we need glue on the inside well of each leg. There we go, that looks about right. So leave that to dry. Then we can glue it down to our base. So we bring our base in, put glue on our feet, and then we can stick them down. Like so. We'll test fit the torso. Yeah, looks good. So put our glue on that. I'll just hold that in position until it dries. So while that's finishing drying, we can clip out our next components. So as we're copying the guide, we want the bent right arm and the straight left arm. And we'll pick out our tabard as well. And one final component we need is our two hip plates here. There we go, with our Wraithlord dry. move on to our next components. So we'll glue on the hip plates. Like so. This just sits like so. So I'll put a little bit of glue on the back of these tarts here. And then that can sit and dry in there. And then we've got our arms, so much like with the legs, we've got little bowls. And they fit on the sockets like so. There we go. Coming along quite nicely. We'll leave those to dry while we cut out our next components. So the next components to cut out are the hands, the ghost glaive, and the 3 components for the head. So we want bottom and top. We want our crest and our ghost glaive. And a choice of left hand, so let's go with closed as that's the paint guide and build guide. So for the head we want to run a bit of glue down the center there and slot that in place. Bit of glue on the end for our crest, so it slots in there. Like so. Bring in our model and we can glue on the hands. So we've got the left fist like so, and our ghost glaive goes on like so. I think I'm going to leave the head separate, so I'm just going to, it won't stay there very well. So I'll leave the head as a separate component so I can paint this and glue it on after we've painted. I'll leave those to dry while we cut out our next bunch of components. So now we need our weapons, so our shuriken catapults. One of these fittings for our bright lance, and of course our bright lance itself. So those components cut out, we can bring back in our Wraithlord. So we need to put glue inside here. Then we can set a bright lance in it like so. While that's drying, we'll bring in our model, put a little bit of glue in each of the arm slots. It'll stick in our shuriken weapons. And glue that into place on the ball joint. Right, it's sitting as flush as we can get it. There we go. Flipping over to our final stage, we can optionally put these tassels on, which I think I'll leave. But our final piece is this nice little bit of scenic material to go on the base. And we can put it pretty much anywhere we want. So the build guide has it roughly there, I think. So all we're going to do is attach the head, and I can slap 3 coats of paint on this guy, which is what I'm off to do now. So I'll see you back at the paint desk. So here we are, all set up, ready to apply paint to our Wraithlord. And I've left the head separate, which actually I didn't press hard enough during the build, but it does actually just friction on quite nicely. But once we've got the black done, I probably will glue it down. And speaking of black, that is our first colour. So I've got the 3 coats of Mephiston red down, so let's start picking out all that smaller black detail. So you've got all the joints between the armour, so the legs and the hips, the arms. We've got some little grills to pick out as well. So we're probably going to need a medium layer brush, but we're going to get some paint ready with our base, medium base brush. As it gives us a nice large dollop on the palette. So while we do have the medium base brush, we will paint the piece that's going to be all black, which is the head plate here, or neck plate should I say, not head plate. Now we've also got these large fins on the back, they all need to be painted in black. We've got the workings of the gun here, the underneath part, so gently pick that out in black. Oops. There we got the grills inside here. And yeah, we're going to need a change brush for the next part. So we need to pick out all this around here, including up underneath. And the final piece to paint is shuriken catapults on each arm. Plus we want to get this raised rune, the power pack, and the pommel and crossguard of the sword. So there we go, all our black detail is done. As you can see, I've been quite messy in places, but that's what tidy up stages are for at the end. So moving on to our next colour, I know I've got lined up screaming pink, but we're actually meant to do Corax white next, and this is just going to be for the head. So a nice easy step, just want to get a smooth coat of red over the domed head, and of course the crest as well. So be careful when we get to the edges so we don't overspill onto the black. As you can see, it's a quite thin covering, so we're definitely going to need a couple of layers to get a solid coat. While waiting for the white to finish drying, we're going to move over to our next colour. So Screamer Pink is used just for the tabard. So it should be a nice easy one coat over red. So we'll get some of the Screamer Pink ready on our palette. And I want to pick out all the cloth. And of course, don't forget to get the other side. Right, I've tidied up my red in between getting everything else done. So now we can move on to our metallics, and first we're going to want Lead Belcher. This is for sword blade. So we'll be careful around the areas that we've already completed. So you might want to swap between brushes, but we'll try to get a smooth coat of silver in one brush, just so we can avoid any unsightly brush marks. So I'll jump to my small brush so I can get in and around the details down here. And don't forget to, of course, do the other side as well. And again, we'll probably want a couple of layers of this over red just to get a solid coat. And while I'm waiting for the second coat of silver to dry, I'm going to come in with the Retributor armor, and this is just for the runic detail on the back of our Wraithlord. So not needing very much, as we only have to try and pick out the raised details. But just thin your paint out. Don't overload your brush. And we got this raised detail in here to pick out. It's best to do multiple thin layers than one thick layer, so just gently brush it on using the side of your brush. And once the first layer is dry, we can pick out a second. There we go, with our tidy ups done, our metals done. We have just 2 little tiny steps left to do, and that's to shade a couple of areas. So first we want non-oil, and we want to recess shades. I'm going to use my starter brush as it's got that nice thin tip. So we need to recess shade the small nodules on the crest here. Just like so. And we're going to need our shade brush for the next step, as we're going to take Caribou Crimson, and this is going to go over the loincloth as well as all the silver details on the sword. So load up a couple of brushfuls onto my palette for added control. So loincloth, we'll brush from the top downwards, getting a nice even coat. And again, making sure we do both sides. And then we got the silver here on the gripped paint or shade. And again, we want to get a nice even coat all over the blade. We can go over the black, as that's not really going to show up red. If we can get all of the silver detail with the Caribou Crimson, we'll have a nice magically infused blade. So there we go. So there we go. Our Wraithlord is done and ready for battle, which we'll be doing in a couple of videos time. But up next is our lore articles. So we got a little bit to look at. We have a overview of spirit stones, how they work and what they're for, and we also have a look behind the veil of the warp. So I hope you'll join me for that. Oh, we've also got a naming ceremony. I almost forgot. So we'll be naming our Wraithlord on camera using our dice rolling as usual. So I hope you'll join me all for that. All that's left for me to do is say thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you next time on more Combat Patrol Carnage. Goodbye.